Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be featuring 4 films by 3 artists who are currently here with us today. And then we're going to have a Q&A panel at the end. What are you doing?
Okay. We're going to let a few more people go ahead and enter in. People are joining us. So we're going to take a couple more minutes, and at 12:05, we're going to start. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, so the first film that we are going to feature today is by artist Faria Shaw. The title of the piece is "And with These Hands."
All right. Faria Shaw is a contemporary lens-based artist originally from Edmonton, Alberta, now based in Bradford, Ontario, Canada. Exploring issues of racial identity, land, and collective memory, Shaw seeks to challenge the lack of representation of disenfranchised bodies in the photographic canon and representational art. Encouraging others to take agency of their image, she currently serves as a board member at Gallery 44, Century of Contemporary Photography, and a member of Women Photograph, an organization that advocates for female identified and non-binary photojournalists. Shaw has exhibited internationally in Canada, Finland, Germany, Italy, Scotland, and South Korea.
I think that we have a responsibility to research the contributions of our mothers and grandmothers. And we have the responsibility to continue to fulfill the legacy which has been left us by struggling women from among our people, understanding that without their contributions, our people would have never been able to withstand the savagery and the brutality inflicted upon us for so many hundreds of years.
Very frustrating that, what you're told and what you're supposed to do is not the same.
These are 2 of my employees that reported to me.
A lot of men were in higher positions, and
Because she
Sometimes it wasn't
dared
easy to
to
get your
militantly
opinion across.
expose and resist the colonial domination of her
They would,
people in
a
Puerto
lot of times they
Rico.
would go away from
She was condemned to
the rules
50
and the
years
structure
in prison.
that was in place. And
My idea
you know,
of
it was
emotional
taboo to
freedom
question.
is
If you did, you were like an outsider.
expectations from family, from everybody. Because a woman is
How do you put a price
supposed
on
to be a
that?
nurturer. So
You know,
she's supposed to be
there's no
the
limit
caregiver,
to the cost.
the one who takes care of everything, the one who keeps peace, the one who does this, the one who does that.
So,
Some
women
of it
of
also
color
it's
undoubtedly
habitual,
have suffered the most
from
barbarous
previous
forms of
cycles.
repression
What you
historically.
see your mom, have done in the
This
past.
isn't
you
to say
continue
that
to
white
do it.
women have not been
So
exempt
that's what it is.
from the wrath of the oppressor. She says that to be black and a woman is to labor under the double handicap of racism and sexism. Historically, the black woman has carried this dual burden. She has had to work alongside the black man in a struggle unlike that of any other group in the United States. Hers has been a desperate effort to make a place of dignity for her people. Generations of black women have carried a disproportionate burden in the family as they are determined and were determined to keep its integrity intact against the constant onslaught of indignities to which it has been subjected. Not only have these women stood shoulder to shoulder with black men in every phase of the battle, but they have continued to stand even when their men have been destroyed.
My mom was like a social worker for the village. She would take in people's children and nurture them, whatever was going on, whatever problems going on in their homes. She would help out. And I see my daughter is following in the same path. She would come home from work and right away she down arms, Mom, you need help with this, blah, 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 And we don't consider that, maybe she might have had a hard day, a long day, to, give her a break and that. Whereas there's other people in the home that I could ask for help.
The movement around the demand for my freedom was largely organized and kept together by black women all over the country.
It's very important for me, for my daughter to have a higher education as it was for me to have higher education. My mom instilled that in us as girls growing up. Because she lost her husband at a really young age, and she did not have higher education and really struggled to raise her kids. And she didn't want to bring a stepdad into the picture to be dependent on. So education for females are very, very important. Sometimes it's not just about money. A simple thank you would suffice, but just to make sure that we're heard.
And when I reflect upon the long and infinitely rich history of struggle that has been written with the sweat and blood of black women, I have to place this tradition alongside the courageous deeds of other women of color.
So again, that was the work by artist Faria Shaw and with these hands. And so the next film that we are going to feature is Come Wash With Me by Kesha Lagniappe. And Shane's gonna read the bio.
Kesha Lagniappe, go by they, them, was born in Helena, Arkansas, in the heart of the Mississippi River Delta. Due to being raised in this conservative region, also known as the Bible Belt, their work focuses on queer, gendered, and class subjectivity, memory and relationships through and with unseen sensibilities, such as soundscapes and alternative materialities, such as fiber, performance, and found objects. Recently, their work has utilized performance and their own body to convey and conceptualize the ephemeral temporality, distance, vulnerability, community, and longing. They have a BFA from the University of Arkansas in Little Rock and an MA from the American University in Cairo in gender and women's studies. Lynette currently resides in Cairo, Egypt.
Okay, so thank you. That piece was called "Come Wash with Me" by Kesha Lagniappe. The next film, we have two films by artist Jezabeth Gonzalez. And so the first film that we are going to watch is House Tour. I'm going to read their bio. So Jezabeth is a multidisciplinary maker who uses video performance, photography, land, and live plants through installation, highly influenced by their hometown of Añasco, Puerto Rico, known as La Ciudad de la Puerto Ricanidad, the birth of Puerto Ricanness, the town donde mueren los dioses, where the gods die. Focusing on re-examinations of Puerto Rico's ongoing colonial status with the United States through family, personal migration, and attachment to Añasco. If you want to know Jezabeth more intimately, you need to know that they listen to reggaeton every day and like arroz con dulce. So this first feature that we're seeing is called House Tour.
It has Sub-Zero appliances. So the kitchen has a breakfast area and then it connects to the family room. This could be turned into a fourth bedroom if someone wanted. This apartment has an amazing view from the master bedroom. You have the ocean, you see the cruise ships at night, you see the lagoon which light up beautifully, you see the planes flying out to Culebra, you see the convention center, and you see the marina from here. At night it's also beautiful. Sometimes clients say, I want all ocean view, but I remind them that at night it's going to be dark.
This next film is also by Jezabeth Roca Gonzalez. This is called Cotidiano. Okay, so that last film that we saw was by Jezabeth Roca Gonzalez, and that was called Cotidiano.
All right. So, hi, my name is Shane Bowers. I'm one of the co-founders of Dispatch Gallery. I just wanted to say thank you for the three artists that were sharing their work today. Amazing and beautiful works by Jezabeth, Keisha, and Farihah. Thank you so much for also taking your time to be with us today. We're now going to open up the Q&A panel and also the interview. We just want to introduce also what Dispatch Gallery is. Dispatch Gallery is an extension of Unpacked Mobile Gallery as a remote option now because of COVID-19, but also the mission is to call on international and domestic artists who work in video, audio, spoken word, and live performance. The gallery involves live stream performance, interviews, and soon to come Real Artist Talk podcast. This year has shown artists are more connected than we think, and we wanted to give space to artists and studio practice and distribution of work that has shifted to virtual platforms. As Dispatch Gallery wanted to create a platform where artists can collaborate, showcase their work through performance, video, and film screening, and artist interviews. Dispatch is also about inclusion and diversity, bringing together artists with cultural and diverse identities, such as persons of color, LGBTQ+, transgender and gender nonconforming persons, immigrants, women, and individuals who do not identify with the mainstream culture. Dispatch is committed to showcase artists that are not able to perform in a brick and mortar gallery, and online platforms of collaboration will be the future of artists. So we hope. So thank you for all being here with us, and I'm going to lead to Giselle to introduce herself.
Yeah, so my name is Giselle Mira Diaz. I go by she, her. I'm also the co-founder of Dispatch Gallery. This is definitely a labor of our love. As a video and performance artist myself, I know that sometimes it's been difficult with the current pandemic. And so having this incredible opportunity to feature you all today and having you present in this space, I'm very, very thankful of that. And so let's turn it over to Lauren, who's here as well. And then, of course, if you see the artists, you can wave at them. They're here as well. Go ahead.
Hey, hi, I'm Lauren Icapone. I am also on the board for Dispatch Gallery and one of the co-founders of Unpacked Mobile Gallery. Unpacked used to be a platform that was showcased out of a 16-foot moving truck that traveled throughout the city of Chicago and to other areas of the city and outside of city bounds, showcasing artwork that has a connection to the neighborhoods of the art and the locations that we showcase the work in. So we've traveled all over to different like mosques and community centers and parks, public spaces to showcase artwork that deals with that direct community. So Dispatch is a beautiful way to extend that mission and showcase work that, you know, we don't actually have access to. You know, we so many of these artists are all over the country and outside of the US. So it's a really beautiful opportunity to showcase folks who normally wouldn't have that opportunity to. So thank you everyone for being here today. And yeah, well, I guess we'll get started. Giselle or Shane, if you wanna begin with some questions for the artists, I think that's a great way to learn more about some of the artwork that we saw today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, the first film that we watched today was by Faria, and you know, it was a beautiful piece. And of course, you know, if anyone else in the audience does have questions, please do feel free to drop them in the chat. But Faria, you know, I know that you've been working throughout your career and exploring similar themes. But this is the first time that I saw this iteration. I know that you made this very recently, 2020. And I think that what I was drawn to is this juxtaposition of the speech by Dr. Angela Davis and then your mom and this very beautiful like interwoven audio that just comes in and out. And then there's, you know, there's portions of like personal history and memory and like, you know, the speech by Angela Davis, you know, talks about so many things. I know that in the speech, it's like almost like an hour long, I believe. But you chose a specific snippet. I know that she talks about like civil rights and like talks about it was a Wounded Knee massacre, farm workers, civil rights, all these things. So I know this is sort of framing it, but Faria, tell me a little bit more background and like why you chose this specific section of Angela Davis's speech.
For sure. And it's really lovely to be here. Thank you so much for including me in this selection of works. It was kind of amazing to see the work with the other pieces as well. The piece started off, I think, in inception, me thinking about the idea of emotional labor. That was kind of the starting point. And before I was an artist, I had a background in human resources, and I reflected on that time in that industry. It was primarily, female identified, dominated, yet these disparities still existed in the workplace. The wage gap, ethics within the workplace, and I thought, okay, this is a really strange thing to have a, majority female identified folks here, but still that power dynamic and that struggle was still existing. So those were some of the really early ideas of the piece. And as I was at home more and more, spending more time with my mom, we had an opportunity to collaborate on some work before. A lot of my work has reflected on, where my family is from and what that story kind of means to me in terms of parts of my identity. So it was a really lovely opportunity to get to have a conversation with my mom about her experience, both being wife, mother, caregiver, worker, contributor to society. What do all these titles kind of entwine, and how do they play a part in different aspects of not just life, but political life? So I was really interested in the combination of the political within the private and vice versa. So those were some of the main reasons why I decided to look at Dr. Angela Davis' speech. I was looking at other sources of labor, but it just didn't really hit the way that I wanted to. And so when I heard the length of that speech, I thought, okay, this is the right message that I wanted to play around with. And as you said, I didn't get a chance to use the whole speech. There were just certain things that, based on the conversation that I was having with my mom, it seemed to echo, and it was a bit haunting that the speech was given in 1974. A lot of things had changed, but not changed at all at the same time. So these were some ideas that I was playing around with that piece.
The next question.
Oh, sorry, you're on mute. Technology, folks.
For sharing. Farihah, that leads me to my next question. The importance of symbolism in your work. Can you tell me more about the process of how you curated that narrative with your mother being a Black woman, identifying as a wife, a daughter, a coworker, and a citizen?
So symbolism is so big in my work. I really wanted to play, I think the very first time that I shot, my mom and I had a sequence where she was braiding my sister's hair, and it was in a different setting. And I really liked the interaction. I loved the close-knit nature of it. It was very intimate. And at the same time, it had a larger message about community. It spoke a lot about the Black community in general. And then things that were very specific within my family. And this idea of kind of weaving narratives was just built into that initial image. So we had an opportunity to reshoot and have that conversation again. And so that was one big piece that I really wanted to incorporate into the body of work. And it was essentially the foundation of the piece.
No, I mean, I think it's a really beautiful piece, and how you've, like you said, woven these narratives together. And I think that it's so powerful. Like you said, this speech that happened in 1974, and it's very much relevant to us. And I think that when we were looking at everyone's pieces, we were also very interested in these sort of everyday moments that happen. And I think that's very evident in all the work that we're looking at today. Of course, very different backgrounds, but I think that there's this very similar strength that is woven in all the pieces that we were able to see today. So thank you. And then of course, artists as well, if you want to ask questions to each other, we can have this conversation as well. The next piece that we did see was also by Keisha, and thank you so much for being here today. And thinking about I know that your piece talks about gentrification, and there's so many elements and layers there as well. I know that Shane had prepared a question for you.
Absolutely. Hi, Keisha.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being able to join us today.
Of course.
If you can just introduce your first and last name, just because you were able to join us, and just your pronouns are they, them, there. And I just wanted to ask you as your first question, as an artist, how do you define your art making practice?
Okay, yes. So this is a good question. Thank you for asking. My art making practice is really all over the place. I would just say I'm a interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, am I saying that correctly? Artist, in that I dabble in a lot of different things because I am a spastic person. I do have ADHD, so I have a million ideas and I want to touch a million different things at once. But recently, with Come Wash With Me, I never considered myself a performance artist. I was always way too shy to have people look at me and be the center of that type of attention. I always wanted to make something and have other people look at it, whether it was a painting, whether it was my collage work, my fiber installation. But with COVID, it kind of kept me in lockdown where I didn't have any other option to express myself than with my body because I didn't have access to materials, a studio, anything like that. I was just in my apartment like we all were, alone. And I've had this idea for several years, but like I said, I was way too shy to ever do it and even consider being a performance artist. So this is all still very new for me. And I would just describe it more as being experimental than anything because I feel like I don't even know what I'm doing sometimes. I just kind of do it and I hope it turns out great. Even before Come Wash With Me, when I was working with my fiber installation, I didn't know how to sew and I taught myself how to sew just to do it. So yeah, that's how I would describe my work.
And that leads me to another question, Keisha. You examine gentrification and your observations not only as an American, but you've also been currently residing in Egypt. How do you deconstruct the observations in your work? Can you go into?
What do you? I didn't hear the last part. I'm sorry.
Sure. How do you deconstruct those observations for the gentrification that you've observed where you're living now in your work?
Oh, of course. Well, it happens here too, especially I noticed with the idea of the clothesline or just the visual of the clothesline. In nicer, more affluent neighborhoods in Cairo, they are banned because they're considered aesthetically displeasing. And that's something that also happened to me in Little Rock when they shut down the laundromat and I was kind of forced to do laundry by hand for a year. And me and several of my neighbors had to put up like clotheslines to get this done, and we were told to take them down or we'd be fined. So I find these little symbols everywhere. The idea, the clothesline specifically being a marker of this unwanted marker of like poverty and aesthetically displeasing. And that's one big observation I noticed here. Gentrification happens everywhere. They want people, certain people who are marked a certain way, whether it be race, class, gender, they want them out of a certain area because they're too loud, they're considered too unwelcomed, and they find different ways to displace them. And sometimes it's taking away their resources, be it the laundromat. Laundromats aren't really a thing here, but they do find other methods to displace people. So.
And I mean, even jumping into Jezabeth's work as well, gentrification, and I know that Jezabeth from Puerto Rico, and the colonized, that history within the United States as well. And I think that the first piece that we showed of yours, Jezabeth, is the house tour. And I know that in that piece, right, you're doing this long shot, this panoramic view of inside your house with your family, but the audio, again, that audio choice is so powerful in everyone's work here. What I was able to understand is that this was a house tour from folks, I'm assuming American folks, trying to go into the island and is potentially like even could contribute to that sort of gentrification. If you could talk a little bit more about that, and I think also the audio usage that you use, your work is super layered. And yeah, if you could comment a little bit more about that, Jezabeth.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I guess within that conversation of gentrification, when people think about like colonialism, they always look at it as in like a past thing, but Puerto Rico is an active colony and has been since like before I even existed. And my decision to put that audio with my grandparents' house is just to showcase sort of a duality that not just a very highly Americanized populated town is a town that feels the impact of this like settler colonialism. My town is not really doesn't really have a lot of tourism, or just let's just say like zero tourism at all, but it does feel the impact as well in many ways. And I'm really interested in sort of like the different generations, like my grandparents, myself, as like coming in and out of the island multiple times a year, and my sister and like her children, like her newborn. The audio was appropriated from a YouTube, I guess like influencer, or I don't know what they're called, just teaching Americans how to take advantage of certain laws to live in paradise. And I always think about just kind of like, what is paradise? Who is it for? Who really contributes to paradise, and like who really lives through paradise? And like, I don't know, just like these ideas. And the audio is also focuses on this realtor who is Puerto Rican, and just sort of like how she's selling this landscape to this person, which, I mean, honestly, if I were a person that were to purchase like the landscape, I wouldn't really think that those are like selling points, but also it just reflects like what people are looking for when they're trying to go into this land that they know nothing about. Yeah, does that answer the question?
No, it does. And I think that, you know, once you start to unpack it and the way that you're explaining it, it's so clear. And I mean, there's so many layers. And I think that, you know, it's definitely very problematic in that way.
It's really important for me to just focus on my hometown. As like you described it earlier, it's known as like the place where the gods died. And like, just to give you a historical narrative about that, it's a land where the Spanish soldiers came into, and the indigenous drowned Diego Salcedo, a Spanish soldier, in order to prove that the colonizers were not gods. And therefore, even though my town is like not avidly known throughout this like new settler colonialism, that history within like the current, I guess, colonial like everything, like, to me is like really important, because it is both a place that has, quote, killed the colonizer, but then even calling itself like the birth of Puerto Ricanness, which is something, a label that comes with the Spaniards. So it's like embracing this like new colonial self, but then still in a way, years, centuries later, dealing with this relationship of kind of other countries like avidly still finding ways to like colonize. I don't know, that word just like repeats itself over and over.
I just wanted to say, in case anyone missed, like, because Giselle mentioned the audio and then you discussed where the source material originally came from. Some of the things that were picked up was like discussion of appliances. This could be a fourth bedroom if someone wanted. And then they talk about being a view of the marina and the convention center and things like that. And juxtaposed with the imagery, it really does appear as a multi-generational family home, because you have, I think maybe it's your sister breastfeeding and your grandparents in the same space. So that was really powerful for me the first time I viewed it. I was just like, is this displacement of an entire family? Like that was really heartbreaking. So that was, the first time I viewed it without having a conversation with you. I didn't quite know where the audio was coming from, but it really built that story that was powerful. So really appreciate that about your work. Did you have any context you wanted to give to your the second video that we watched? I know that I thought there were some really beautiful moments between the dancing scene, and then there was someone sort of taking a cloth, and I wasn't sure what that action was, so I was curious to learn more about that. What was that person doing with the cloth when they were sort of almost like dyeing it with like pigments?
Yeah, I think both videos kind of like work together in a way that they focus on everyday banal things. It's something that I really gravitate towards when I'm making video. Like I don't know why, but I'm like, oh, if it's like, sometimes I think like if it's super boring, I really love it. I don't know. I'm like, yes, we're all sitting. This is perfect. And then in the context within the shirt is my sister-in-law is kind of dyeing or washing the shirt in soil so that I can take it with me to the US. And then I wash the soil off of the shirt and use it for some of my installations. So even though it's a territory of the US, you can't take like any fruit or any soil, anything. So I tried to figure out kind of like what are ways for me to like still be connected to this land in this other place. And so straining the shirt with soil, which comes also from, I've collected my grandfather's work shirts, which are always dirty, and he wears them like over and over and over and over, like every day, like the same shirt until I take it. And just that idea of just like being able to collect particles through just in a way kind of hand washing it, intertwined with what are the things that happen in this land that I'm like so attached to. So just like a group of people dancing, or just the vision of the green, which is connected to the soil. Just my nephew playing with horses, or my sister and I just like existing in the same space.
Yeah, I thought that your nephew playing with the horses was really a really like beautiful scene, and then following it was like the hair braiding, and that was really beautiful as well. So like very tender moments for like the finale of the film. So.
And, did you want to ask?
Jezabeth, I was just going to ask you a question also, if it's okay for your process. Can you describe the way that you are cropping, overlaying your frames for your work? If you can go in that a little bit.
Yeah. So a video like the house tour, I shot that within a year. So I probably have like a folder with so much video in it that it's just the same thing, like a full day, just walking in circles, kind of doing that. And I tend to make very short videos. I try to make really long videos, and like everyone that does, I'm like, wow, how do you do that? Anything that's like over a minute, I'm like, wow, you made a film. And I'm trained as a photographer, so I feel like I just like overly document everything. And in the construction of videos, I just tend to be more, if I'm doing a lot of post edit work, I tend to be more copy pasty. So it's almost like a vignette within a vignette within a vignette and another vignette, because that is a way for me to put in as much context without feeling like there's too much overwhelmingness. But it really just kind of depends on like almost like a video mood. I don't know, just like setting like a background and like what is the mood for this narrative and just like going from that. So the short videos could be very intense or they could be like kind of tender. Yeah.
No, yeah, thank you again for sharing your work. I think that, again, everyone who shared their work today, we really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing this space. And also anyone in the audience as well. I know that we've been getting a few comments from Amy. If there are anyone else who has a question.
Yep, Amy Shelton actually directed this to Keisha and Farihah. Amy said, I just wanted to comment that the weaving of the story with weaving of the hair reminded me of how the textile industry helped develop typing and text. So cool, to Farihah. And then a comment to Keisha. The comment about ADHD and multidisciplinary was so real and relatable, Keisha. Did you want to also highlight about that within your work and your process, Keisha?
Yeah, of course. So having ADHD and being neurodiverse, it's, I guess the best way to describe it is having thousands of files or tabs open on your computer at once. And it's like, how do you ever get work done? How do you narrow it down and focus on one idea? And it's very, very hard for me. I have a lot of unfinished projects that I'm working on. I have supplies everywhere from projects that I thought of and I never got to. So I feel like I waste a lot, but that's why I also try to use found objects and recycle things more, so I'm not always buying and wasting. But usually how I narrow down on an idea is if I keep thinking about it over and over again. So sometimes it takes me years to actually develop a project all the way through. Like with Come Wash With Me, I had the idea since 2015, and it just kept coming back to me and coming back to me over and over again. I was like, well, I guess I need to do it since I don't forget it. If I forget an idea, then that means it's probably not that important to me, and I just move on. Even like I said, the piece I did before that, I think Shane's familiar with 97, the fiber installation. It took me 9 years to actually make that, and I just kept coming back to it over and over again and thinking about it. And I was like, well, I guess this is important to me, so I should just do it since I keep thinking about it so much and I haven't forgotten about it like all my other ideas. So this is kind of how I work and develop my projects.
Sorry, I'm mute.
I want to say thank you for sharing that. I think all of the artwork that we've seen today is a sense of vulnerability and also just of utter importance of sharing culture. And I just want to thank each and every one of you of being able to share this work. It's just so important.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Are we leaving? I'm sorry. I'm so
well, we're going to open it up for a panel for anyone that wanted to ask questions in the chat. Amy Shelton also just stated to Keisha, that was super helpful. And also thank you, Keisha, for highlighting that. And thank you for talking about that as well.
Yeah, it's
no
already... Yeah, it's right on time. I don't know if people want to see the films again. I'm more than happy to replay them. If not, thank you again to all the artists. Thank you again to everyone who's here helping facilitate this and create the space.
This wonderful conversation and talk will also be streaming on IGTV. We'll also be doing some live streams throughout the week. So if anyone did miss it, they will be able to catch up and see it. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Does the artist have any questions for each other? It's okay if you don't.
It's okay, no pressure, no pressure.
Just no pressure. If anything resonated with you, of course, we're having plenty of events throughout the month, and y'all will be able to hopefully reconnect by the end of the party that's on May. Can't remember the date, forgive me. But we will see each other also again soon. So thank you so much for providing your time today.
Yeah, thank you. I will be replaying the films if people are interested.
Absolutely.
I think that we have a responsibility to research the contributions of our mothers and grandmothers. And we have the responsibility to continue to fulfill the legacy which has been left us by struggling women from among our people, understanding that without their contributions, our people would have never been able to withstand the savagery and the brutality inflicted upon us for so many hundreds of years.
Very frustrating that, what you're told and what you're supposed to do is not the same. These are two of my employees that reported to me. A lot of men were in higher positions, and sometimes it wasn't easy to get your opinion across.
Expose and resist the colonial domination of her people in Puerto Rico.
A lot of times they would go away from
she was condemned to
the rules and the structure that was in place. And
my idea of
it was taboo to question. If you did, or you were like an outsider.
Expectations from family, from everybody. Because a woman is
how do you put a price
supposed
on
to be a nurturer. So she's supposed to be
there's no
the
limit
caregiver,
to the cost.
the one who takes care of everything, the one who keeps peace, the one who does this, the one who does that. Some
Women
of it
of
also
color
is
undoubtedly
habitual,
have suffered the most barbarous
previous
forms of
cycles.
repression
You
historically.
see your mom, have done in the
This
past.
isn't
you
to say
continue
that
to
white
do it.
women have not been exempt
That's what it is.
from the wrath of the oppressor. She says that to be black and a woman is to labor under the double handicap of racism and sexism. Historically, the black woman has carried this dual burden. She has had to work alongside the black man in a struggle unlike that of any other group in the United States. Hers has been a desperate effort to make a place of dignity for her people. Generations of black women have carried a disproportionate burden in the family as they are determined and were determined to keep its integrity intact against the constant onslaught of indignities to which it has been subjected. Not only have these women stood shoulder to shoulder with black men in every phase of the battle, but they have continued to stand even when their men have been destroyed.
My mom was like a social worker for the village. She would take in people's children and nurture them, whatever was going on, whatever problems going on in their homes. She would help out. And I see my daughter is following in the same path. She would come home from work and right away she down arms, Mom, you need help with this, blah, 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 And consider that, oh, maybe she might have had a hard day, a long day, to, give her a break in that. Whereas there's other people in the home that I could ask for help.
The movement around the demand for my freedom was largely organized and kept together by Black women all over the country.
It's very important for me, for my daughter to have a higher education as it was for me to have higher education. My mom instilled that in us as girls growing up, because she lost her husband at a really young age, and she did not have higher education and really struggled to raise her kids. And she didn't want to bring a stepdad into the picture to be dependent on. So education for females are very, very important. Sometimes it's not just about money. A simple thank you suffice, but just to make sure that we're heard.
And when I reflect upon the long and infinitely rich history of struggle that has been written with the sweat and blood of Black women, I have to place this tradition alongside the courageous deeds of other women of color.
kitchen has a breakfast area and then it connects to the family room. These could be turned into a fourth bedroom if someone wanted. This apartment has an amazing view from the master bedroom. You have the ocean, you see the cruise ships at night, you see the lagoon which light up beautifully, you see the planes flying out to Culebra, you see the convention center, and you see the marina from here. At night it's also beautiful. Sometimes clients say, I want all ocean view, but I remind them that at night it's going to be dark.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye.